Alright, so welcome to this live streaming, and this is the first stream on my channel. So I'm hoping for a lot of things to go right. Let's get started. So this is the website that we will be scrapping today, and the objective is to learn few things about web scrapers and also build a price monitor. So I've chosen this website because it has a lot of keyboards, lot of variants, and some of them are available to buy and some of them are, like, most of the times out of stock. So for example, if I want to buy this RGB backlight, this is out of stock. This white backlight is available, but this one is out of stock. So what I want to do is I want to write a script which can actually monitor what is happening, what is available, what is missing, and get an email alert. So we'll see how much time we have. So I will try to write the code as much as possible on live. Otherwise we'll do some copy pasting, to save time. So the first phase is analysis. So I'm going to press F12. Okay. And we have the developer toolbox available here. So there are actually a lot of commands you can use. You can use F12 or Control Shift I or Control Shift C. And depending on what you press, you will have some or the other tab active here. So what we are interested in is this network. So first thing that we want to see is what happens when we click on different buttons. So for example, this particular variant is out of stock, but if I click on white backlight, what happens? So we see some traffic, but let's enable the domain as well. So this is the domain, and let me make it bigger. All right. So what we see here is this sessions. So something related to session. This is Facebook tracking. Again, session. This one I'm not sure what it is, but this is JS file. So definitely it does not contain the information that we need. And this WebP files, these are the images. So basically what it means is that the information of availability or the pricing, this is already stored in this page. So we just need to find it. So what we are going to do is we'll just select the price. We will not select the dollar sign. So that is important, because usually what happens is whenever you are looking at a dollar sign or any other currency sign, dollar, pound, rupee, whatever it is, most of the time it is sent as a raw number, and this currency symbol is applied on the front end, on the dynamic side. So we'll just look for 69, not even 69.00. So simply press Ctrl U or right click and click on page source, a view page source. Okay. Now I'm going to paste it, and right on the top we can see that this is a huge chunk. So this is a script tag which contains lot of JSON. So we can see that there is a huge JSON, and most probably it contains the information that we need. So what we are going to do is we are going to write a quick script that will search for this particular script tag, and we will get this information and we will process the JSON. Now technically we can use Beautiful Soup, request, that combination, but I will still choose to go with Scrapy. The reason is whatever you can do with Beautiful Soup and request library, you can do it with Scrapy in a much better, cleaner way. So let's see what we have to do. So the first thing first, we are going to open the terminal. Now you'll see that I already have my virtual environment open, and I'm going to start Scrapy shell, and I'll copy this keyboard, this URL. So I'm going to remove this variant and just keep this raw URL. Okay. And Control L to clear this. And now we are going to call the fetch method. And I'm simply pasting in the URL. So this will open the connection and it will load the page, and we see that there is success code 200. But we still want to make sure that we are on the correct page and not some notice that you need to have JavaScript enabled and all that. So I'm going to write view response. So response. So let's have a look. So it's asking whether I want to open with Chrome. Yes. And now look at the URL. So this is a local URL, but the page that we need is exactly what we have. So now what we need to do is we need to select this, and we just want to write a quick selector which can fetch this particular element. So we can use the XPath or CSS, doesn't matter. So whatever you are comfortable with, use that. I recommend CSS for the beginners because CSS will work in a lot of places. If you're using Beautiful Soup, you can use dot select and pass in the CSS selector. If you're using Selenium, you can use a CSS selectors. If you're using, if you're coming from JavaScript background and you want to use something like Puppeteer, you can use CSS selector. So CSS selector will work at a lot of places, if not all. So now the CSS selector, we are looking for a script tag, and we need to remove this space because we want to filter out further. And we are looking for script tags with this particular attribute. So that's the reason. So I'm getting a warning here that my connection is slow than the recommended one, but I know that actually it is very fast. So let's see how it goes. So anyway, so let's execute this. And okay, this error can sometime happen. So nothing to worry, just re-execute. Okay, syntax error. Now this time it is something different. So this double quote should be inside the square brackets. So we can see that there are 3 items which are being selected. If we come back to the page source, we know that this is the first script tag, or we can actually look inside all of these and get whatever we want. So right now, if we just call the get method, we will get only one, and this is the one which contains the complete element. Now we don't need the complete element. What we need is inside whatever that element is. And if we want to get the content of the element, what we need to do is we need to use text. So I'm just looking at, so still saying that the bitrate is little lower than the recommended bitrate. So I hope everything is okay. Let me know if the stream is not working okay. All right, so coming back here, we have everything. So let's store it and let's call this raw data, because we still need to process that raw data. And this exception is again, so this particular exception, if you see this, that simply means that you just need to rerun the command. All right, so we have the raw data and I don't know why it is happening. So let's look at raw data and we have everything. Okay, cool. Now, if we check the data type of this raw data right now, so this is a string data type and we cannot apply any selector on this raw data. So for that reason, we need to convert it into a standard data type of a standard Python data types. So what we will do is we will import the JSON library, and we will call the json.loads as for string, and we will supply this raw data. Okay, and let's store the output and call it data. So if we just print the data just like that, we will see that it is already formatted little nicer. And if we look at the data type, now we see that, please ignore this warning, this will happen. I think today it is going to happen a lot. So anyway, so we can see that this is a dictionary. But the problem is that we are not able to, this is a huge chunk of JSON and it's very difficult to write the selector. So this is where I have a trick for you. Just quickly dump everything in a file. So I'm going to create one file and let's call it key.json, and I'm putting it in a temp folder and using the write mode, and because I'm on Windows, I'll make this a raw string, okay, as f and f dot write raw data. Okay, so just in a moment I will show you how it can help you a lot. Awesome. So I probably need to create mkdir temp. All right, so now we have this temp key.json library, or JSON, this particular file we have available. So let's open this in VS Code. All right, so this is the VS Code and I've opened this file, and right now you can see that it is not well formatted. So Control Shift P and then format document. All right, so now we can see the structure of this particular JSON file. So these are certain keys, and this offers is a list. So if we collapse this, there's nothing else. So this means that the offer is a list. So this contains all the variants. So if we look at one of them, we can see that the price is 69.00. So as I said earlier, the dollar sign is added dynamically. It's not in the raw data. The availability is in stock, and this one is white backlight Keychron red. Okay, let's look for something which is not in stock. So this one is out of stock, and this one is RGB backlight Keychron red. So now if we just run a loop on this particular offers, okay, so let's come to the command prompt here. So for item in data, let's put offers and let's print item, not like that, item, and let's just get the name. So right now we are just testing that we are on the correct. Yes, so we are on the correct route, and we can see that all the variants are quickly printed. So this is the time when I will stop using this and I will generate a spider. So let's come to another command prompt. So this is the directory that I'm going to work, and what I'm going to type right now is just a shortcut to activate my Anaconda environment. And I'm going to switch to another environment, another virtual environment. So this is the one that I'm going to use. Now let's use Scrapy gen spider command, and let's call it Keychron. And the fourth parameter is going to be the URL. Now this is where I want to talk about why people think that Scrapy is very complex and beautiful soup and request is easier. So it's not really the case if you just understand few basic things. Number one, if you use this command, okay, don't create, project. For simple things, you don't need to create start project and then generate spider. Directly generate the spider. And just, it's simple command, scrapy gen spider, keychron is the name of the file that will be created. And the fourth parameter is the URL which you want to process. So I'm just putting X because we are going to change it later. So now we'll get a message that, okay, this already exists. So I'm going to write something like 2. Yeah. So now it has created the spider keychron 2. And this I am going to open in keychron 2.py. This I am going to open in Visual Studio Code. So this is our spider, and just ignore this allowed domain. I am not interested in allowed domain. So we are not writing a complex spider. It's a very simple spider. So if we just put a start URL, so which is the start URL? This one. So this is going to be the start URL. And let's come to the okay. So I'm going to paste this URL here. So in fact, let me put it like this, and on the left side, I will keep the command prompt. And let's simply copy paste whatever we have. So in fact, I can do this copy paste one by one, or I can take, save some time, and I will copy the code that I have already written. So effectively, you can see that, okay, I've used the XPath here, doesn't matter. So effectively what I have done here is I have taken the data, and we need to import the JSON. Or if you really want me to write everything, I can do that. So let's do it that way. So if we scroll up here, let us scroll up a lot. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. It's not going up. So what we did is we wrote a selector. So that selector is lost. So our selector was like this. Okay, so this was our selector, which was giving us a raw data. In fact, we don't need this 0 because the get will anyway return the first element. So this is the raw data, and then we converted this raw data into this JSON data. So this will give us a dictionary, and we are anyway importing JSON here. And all these things we don't need to do. Now from here, we can copy this, and we were simply printing it, right? And now we don't need the command prompt. We can expand it, and we will put this JSON here in this area so that we can quickly copy paste what we need. And now because we will be using because we are using Scrapy Spider, we need to use the yield statement. Okay, so there are two ways. We can directly use the yield statement, or we can create a dictionary, and then we can do something like this. So in fact, let's take the shortcut. Oops. So we need the name, and this is the name So this is the selector for the name, and I'm going to press Alt Shift down arrow, and let's take the price. So this I'm going to paste in simply. I'm just going to paste in here. So name we have taken, the price we have taken, and most important, we need the availability. Availability we can simply put like that. We can write availability, or we can do something a little better. So let me show you what I mean by that. So we don't need anything else from this, so I'm going to close it. Now for availability, what I want to do is I want to check. So let me reopen that JSON file, and if you remember, this availability was this text. So out of stock, out of stock. So this is the string that we are getting. Okay. So what we will do is instead of getting availability like that, we will check if this item dot availability contains this particular word. Okay. So if in item dot availability, if in stock item dot availability, we will store true. Okay, I'm taking a shortcut here, so I'm using one-liner. So true if in stock, else false. So once this statement execute, if item availability is containing this particular word, it will contain true. So available. So that's a better name. And let's put it here. So I hope you are getting what I'm doing. So I'm checking for this word in this particular key. If it is in stock, then I'm storing true, otherwise false. So the benefit is that this will be a Boolean variable. So later on, if you want to do some filtering, it will be much easier. So I just want to guys, can you drop me a message if you are still getting this? All right, so I'm assuming that the stream is working. So once we run the spider, we should have these three things for all the keyboards. All right, so let's go back to the command prompt and let's see. So first, let's save this and let's do a quick test run. Okay, so the command that I'm going to run is Scrapy run spider Keychron underscore 2 dot py. And this is another place where people who are coming from Beautiful Soup, they complain that Scrapy is very, it outputs lot of things. So this output feels like a lot, but it is actually very important and very useful. So don't try to look at everything and try to understand everything when you are just at the beginning stage. Just look at few key important points. So this is one of the thing, items scrapped count. This is 18. So we already have 18 items. And once you get familiar, you will see that this dictionary, this is one item. So this is another item. Now there are many items. And if you are still not comfortable, what you can do is, instead of this yield statement, you can write a print statement. Okay. So you write a print statement and then come to command prompt here, clear everything, and just put limit to warning. So we are setting log level to warning. Now if you write it like that and press enter, so let's see what happens. Now all you see is all the items they were scrapped. So now if you're coming from Beautiful Soup kind of background, you will see that the output is much more readable. But this is not useful if you're coming from, again, if you're coming from a Beautiful Soup kind of background, we need to actually yield this, not just print it. So this yield keyword is very similar to return if you're not aware, just that it will yield as they are available. So return statement, if you run if you write a return statement in for loop, it will wait for one item to be available, and if you run it again and again, it will restart from 0. But in case of yield, it will put them in a queue. So this is much better. I have not done a good job of explanation, but just understand that it is much better and much efficient when you are especially working with quite a huge number of items or huge number of scrapes. All right. So let's move on to the next part. Now, if we come to the command prompt and if we have to run a command like this again and again, so this will become very tedious. I understand that. So the first thing that we will do right now is we are going to change this. So the changes that we are going to make is, okay. So the stream is working okay. So now the changes that we are going to make is, first of all, we are going to import one library, and this is again part of Scrapy itself. So this is scrapy.crawler import crawler process. Okay. So once we import this class, we are going to create one object, and I'm going to collapse this so that we can see clearly what is happening. So this object I'm creating, and we need to of course store it. And this is, traditionally called process, but of course you can call it anything that you want. Now there are two more things that we need to do here. So once you have created the process, you need to inform which spider you are going to process. So process dot crawl. So this is another method, and what you need to pass in is the name of the class. So this is important. Here you pass in the name of the class. So if this code you want to write, you can write in another file. Excuse me. So you can write this code in another file, but then you will have to import this particular class and pass in here. Still the execution part is still pending. So for that, we'll have to call process dot start. So once we have done this, so basically if you see that apart from the import, we have written only 3 lines. And once you have written it few times, you will remember how you are doing it. So now if we come to command prompt, we don't have to call Scrapy, run spider and all that. We can simply call Python keychron2.py and it will execute the spider. And you can still see here that we have 18 items scrapped. So this is the good part. All right. So let's move on to the next part. Now what we want is we want to send the output of this spider to a CSV file. Okay, why a CSV file? In fact, you can use JSON as well, but most of the times when you're working with this kind of spiders, the output, expected output will be CSV or XLS, and CSV is built in. The Excel part you have to anyway implement separately. So let's talk about CSV. So I'm going to create one constant or one variable and let's call it K4. Okay. So let's call it K4 because, or let's call it Keychron, doesn't matter. Key.csv. We can call it anything, doesn't matter. So I'm putting this in a variable or in a constant just because I am going to use it again multiple times. Now, if you're running this from the command prompt, like from here, so what you can do is -o and then pass in this k4.csv and it will output the k4.csv, but that is not what we want. We want to write it inside this spider itself. So what we are going to do is, if we are working with a separate project, like if it is a project and the spider is part of the project, we will be doing exactly what I'm going to do now in settings.py. So right now what we are going to do is we are going to do it right here using this custom settings attribute. So all we have to do is we have to write custom settings and custom settings is a dictionary. So whatever you want to write in custom settings, you have to write it in this way, the key and the value. So the key here to create the files, so this is called feeds. So we want to create a feed, and this is again another dictionary because there are a few things that we need to specify. So here we will be providing the file name. So we can write whatever file name we want to create, but we have already created one constant here. So I'm going to copy this constant or variable and paste in here. And this is again another dictionary. So this format is new for Scrapy 2.4, I guess. The previous format was little different, but the functionality was exactly like what we have right now. So then we have to provide the format. So format is of course CSV. So you can actually make this JSON and file name will be CSV, but the content will be JSON if you really want to be the bad programmer. But anyway, so now the second thing that we need to provide is the encoding. So if you don't know what encoding you need, just put UTF-8. So it works most of the times unless you have very specific requirement. So these two things you should know. And in fact, let's do something. Today is 28th. So let's give this name key 28. Okay. So I'm doing it just for testing. Okay. So now let's call this. So we are again running the same script, and if everything is okay, we should have a CSV file created. So let's look if we have a CSV file with the name key 28. Okay. So this is the name of the file that we created. So we should have this. Yes, so we have this key28.csv, and if you want to look at the content on Windows, you can use the type command. On Mac or Linux, you can use cat command. Okay, so this is the content of the file. So now we have a CSV file as well. So next part, what we want to do is once we have the parse, we are able to get the data, we are able to save the data. Now we want to send an email. So in fact, let's make it a little bit more systematic. Let's put everything, all these 3 lines, and let's create a function main. Okay, so this is the standard convention, and inside this script you will see something like if underscore underscore name equals underscore underscore main. So I need to put double equals, oops, in that case call main. So this will make sure that if you are calling this file or importing this file somewhere else, your code is not executed accidentally. Okay, so this is the purpose of this. Now we want to create a code that can send mail. So let's I think we are running out of time. We have used a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some copy paste. So now we need to write a code that can send mail. So this I have covered earlier in one of my videos. So we need to import smtplib and we need to import email message. And then I'm going to paste in few more things. Okay. So we are creating an instance of email message. And then we need to import OS as well. So what we need to do is we will be storing this email username and password in environment variable. So basically on Windows, if you open your system here, if you open your environment variables, you should be able to create a new environment variable. So I've created 2 environment variables. So I've actually named them Gmail. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to read these 2 variables and I'm setting from and to both to the same user. Okay, so this is the from, to, and subject part, and we still need to create a body, which I'll come to in just a moment. And then once we have the message, we will simply use this block. So what we are doing here, we are connecting to Gmail SMTP, starting the secure connection, logging in, and then we are using send message. So this you need to remember that if we are using MSG, this email message object, we need to use send message. Okay, so why do I have warning here? Nothing. Now the important part is creating the message body. Now this is important. So let me create a variable here, body, and I'm going to create one more function here, get body. Okay. So this get body, I am creating a separate function because I want to do some filtering. So the easiest way to do filtering is using pandas. So I'm going to use pandas, and in pandas we can simply read the CSV file. So this CSV file can be read using pandas underscore read CSV. And again, we need the CSV file name. So what we will do is very simple. We will take the CSV file and put it here. Okay. So this will give us a data frame object. Now this data frame gives us a very simple method, and this method is toHTML. So this toHTML will simply convert whatever is inside this data frame. So right now it contains the content of CSV file. So with only 3 lines, we are converting this CSV file into HTML table. So this is useful, and it is again useful because if you remember, we have this field available, which is a Boolean. So what we can do actually is we can use some pandas filtering, and I'm going to do a filter. Oops. So what this function will do, so df available is a Boolean. So only the keyboards which are actually available, only those will be sent to this HTML table. And this we are going to return. So if you are not sure about pandas and how pandas filtering work, so if you just write it like this, that should also give you the HTML table of the complete CSV content. So I find this one little easier. That way I will know which one is good and which one is not. So I'm just looking at my stats, and anyway, the stream bitrate is not what I would like actually to be. I don't know, I'm a 300 MB connection, but it's still something wrong with either the ISP or something else. So let's not get into that. So we have the body now, and what we need to do is this message body. This is what we need to set. So what we are going to do is we are going to call the toContent method or setContent method. So setContent. So this is going to be body, and there is one additional parameter that we need to pass. So this is going to be subtype, and this subtype is going to be HTML. So once we do this, this email message will contain, the email message content will be the HTML body, and the HTML type will be sent. So what you should see in your email is actually the nicely formatted email. So let's see if we can run this and get the output that we are looking for. So I'm going to clear everything. So let's execute this script. So we did one stupid thing. So rather I did one stupid thing. In the main function, I did not call this send mail. So it created, and this CSV file is, it's actually appending to the existing CSV file each time. So what I've done is I've written one small function cleanup, so which is just simply deleting whatever CSV file is there. So again, this needs, so my imports are actually, they should go on the top, but for now I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm going to call this cleanup function first so that the existing CSV is deleted and then this file runs again. So let's do it one more time. So let's clear everything. Okay, so now we have the spider running. Username and password not accepted. So that means my credentials that I created, they are still not where they should be. So I can actually, I just added those things in my environment variables, and my environment variables, I need to actually log out and then come back again. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop this stream and I'm going to upload the cleaned up code on GitHub. I will upload this for GitHub. But there is one more thing that I wanted to share with you before I end this stream. If you go to Keychron India, so I was looking at Keychron India, and this site is actually designed a little bit different. You can see that not all of the products are available. The prices are different and they are not exactly in the same place. So if I press Ctrl U and look for 6199, this is, so they are actually here, right here. And if you can see, this is a form element. So all these prices, they are in form element. So you'll have to actually look for form class variations from cart, and inside this data product variation, this attribute, you will find all the different things. So as an exercise, as a practical exercise, what I will recommend that you go through this site and try to do exactly the same thing. Your selectors will change, but your code will largely remain the same. So anyway, I will update this link with both the codes. So I hope you learned few things, and this was just the first live stream. So I know that there are a lot of things which went wrong, but we'll make it little better. And the idea of this live stream came when I actually touched 1000 subscriber. So thank you everyone for subscribing. So it really feels good when I have 1000 subscribers. So that's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.